Welcome to Digital Hospitality. I am your host, Sean Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. We believe in our deep thesis. We started the show 2017. We thought that we were not alone as restaurateurs. We thought that there were other incredible leaders out there seeking information. There was incredible technology, incredible people that if we were willing to ask the right questions, we could get in front of the right people. We believe that all businesses need to be digital first. We also believe that all businesses are in the hospitality business, whether they know it or not. I'm very honored today. It's an incredible journey that we've been on. This will be the fourth publicly traded CEO that we get to interview on our show. So we've had Chris Comparato from Toast, we've had Aman Narang, we've had Noah Glass from Olo, and today I get to introduce you to Savneet Singh. He is the CEO of PAR Technology. You can find them on the New York Stock Exchange at PAR, at PAR. You can find them at PAR Technology on all the socials. Savneet, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate the openness to come on podcasts. I've listened to a lot of your other interviews. I know that many CEOs and many teams, depending on size, depending on comms, depending on legal, choose where the CEO spends their time. But we believe that technology is moving at such a rapid pace. We opened up our restaurant in 2008. The first iPhone came out on June 29th, 2007. And when I look back at where was our restaurant in 2008 and what has, number one, the smartphone, all of Web 2.0 enabled me and my business to do, to the fact that you and I are on a Zoom call that will get repurposed for YouTube, to Spotify, to podcast, to reach thousands, tens of thousands, hopefully hundreds of thousands of people that run restaurants, that are in hospitality, that are curious about technology. I'm so grateful to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
No, it's an honor to be here. And, those CEOs you mentioned are all kind of mini heroes of mine. So it's nice to walk in their footsteps.
Oh, I don't know about walking in their footsteps. I'm lucky enough to have the courage to look stupid, sound stupid, create a show that for long enough, if you do the work long enough, if you have a deep belief, eventually the secrets start to reveal themselves of what's going on. Give us a high overview of PAR and where PAR is, and we're recording this in October of 2024.
Sure. So PAR is a 60-year-old business that was in many ways restarted in 2018. A bunch of us kind of came into PAR at the time. We had a really fast-growing point of sale product called Brink. And our kind of unique insight at the time was that the enterprise was moving to the cloud and software was eating the restaurant, but the restaurant wasn't quite ready for it. It sounds like you were ready for it, but the enterprise it wasn't ready for it. And our thesis back then, and still kind of holds true to today, is that as the digital wave hit the restaurants, restaurants were going to be overwhelmed with technology, and they were going to be adding all sorts of different point solutions to their infrastructure to solve a very acute need. So, one day they'd say, "Hey, I need a loyalty program. I'm going to need a mobile app. I'm going to need online ordering. I'm going to need DoorDash, Uber Eats. I'm going to need QR code ordering. I'm going to need voice AI, whatever it may be." Restaurants were going to continue to add new product, and new product. And one day it was our belief that they were going to wake up and say, "Oh my God, none of these things were integrated well together. And if something breaks here, it cascades across my entire system. And my ability to create a unique customer experience is gone." And I oftentimes, when I meet with CIOs of large restaurant chains, I feel like their job is gone from being a great experience creator and thinking, how do I make my brand resonate with you digitally, to a vendor manager where, gosh, I have a vision of what I want to create for you, but I got to get like 15 different vendors to make that happen. That's pretty hard. And so our thesis back in 2018, when we took over the business, was that we wanted to integrate and unify a lot of this technology so that you, the operator, can create that amazing digital experience that you're looking to. And so today, we are the largest loyalty solution in the world for restaurants in a product called Punch. And alongside Punch, we've got a small online ordering business. And then we have a point of sale business called Brink with a back office and payments platform. So we try to think about it as we have the platform to run your in-store operations with back office, point of sale, and payments, and then your digital operations, which are online ordering and loyalty.
I would love to hear in your words, what does digital hospitality mean to you?
So it's funny. You kind of said in the beginning that restaurants have to take digital more serious than anything else. And my view is actually a little different, which is I think that digital hospitality means taking the same brand promise your store delivers in store and bringing it off premise. And the idea being that there can't be a disconnection between what you do in store and on your digital store. That there's still real estate footprints, one being the digital footprint, one being your physical footprint. Those have to be the same. And if they're disconnected, you actually are doing a disservice to your brand. So as an example, if your store is a beautiful restaurant that's super high value, never done a discount, really prides itself on quality, prides itself on service, you can't go make a loyalty app that's all about discounting. Those are disconnected, right? Because then you train your new customers not to think of your brand as it is today. And you can't do the opposite either. You can't be the discount brand and then have a loyalty app that doesn't have discounts. And so I think you've got to think about those as the same thing, because in reality, those same things that attracted you and I when we were kids to go to that restaurant are still the same things. It's the food, it's the quality of the product, the emotions that brand gives to you. That just has to happen in the digital world. And so to me, digital hospitality is still hospitality. It's the same damn thing. We're just taking what you used to do in store and bringing it online.
I heard you say on a podcast, one of your mantras is data over anecdotes.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's to me, it's been a great life lesson, not just in building products for our customers, but also just as a manager. It is really easy to get excited about an anecdote. Oh my God, our product sucks because X, Y, and Z, or oh my God, our product's the best thing in the world because this customer said this one thing. And I like to come back and say, okay, what did the data actually say? Are we really great or really bad? Or is this product really useful? Is product really not? Or is this boss, oftentimes you'll have an employee come in and say, I'm not being treated fairly, and and you're like, well, listen, let's look at your 360 review. And it's like, yes, maybe you aren't being treated fairly, but like there's like 9 people that said the same thing. So maybe, we have to have a different conversation. And so to me, data is objective. Data is more honest than, any human being. And so I like to balance the anecdote with data. And I do think anecdotes still matter. There are canaries in the coal mine you're always looking for. But I do like to rely on data to make a decision than the loudest voice in the room.
How do you pull on that thread where you do hear a story and you need more data? Like, when is a story powerful enough from a customer that you need to do more due diligence?
Always. So I take every customer call seriously. Kind of a hallmark of PAR is that I really do tell every customer, you got a problem, call me. And so no matter what the issue is or who the customer is, I do try to come back into it. So for an example, if you're a customer running our loyalty program and you're saying, hey, my orders aren't reconciling appropriately and I'm losing $1 million a day or something, I'll go back and say, oh, wow, that's a huge issue. Let me go look into that. And hey, turns out your orders are reconciling, but the digital ordering application you use actually has changed their file structure. And so that's why it's not, this little tiny portion of it's not reconciling. Why don't you give them a call, tell them to change their file format, blah, 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 blah. Like, there's always a kind of come back to it. And I do find that, a lot of when something gets to me, it's someone in that customer's organization is inflamed, right? They're like, those guys suck. They're making me miss my numbers or making me look bad to my boss. And so a lot of it is not to come back and say, hey, sorry, you're wrong. The data says that. It's to just provide context. It's like, yeah, you should feel that way. You should feel aggrieved because that problem is real. Now, whether that problem is PAR's or another partner's, that's what we have to solve now. And if it's PAR's, it's on us. We own it. We're going to take care of it. We're going to make it real. But it's more about providing context than it is to say, hey, sorry, you don't feel that, you can't argue someone doesn't feel that pain.
Hey everyone, Avi Gorin, CEO and co-founder of Marquee, and I want to talk about the customer journey for a second. You never know as a restaurant owner where your guests are truly coming from. End of the day, we do see some patterns around 2 types of search behaviors: direct versus discovery. Direct search, for an example, would be jumping into Google and saying Cali barbecue hours, right? I know where I want to go to eat, but I'm missing a key detail. I need a little bit more information. Discovery, which is the bulk of searches, is barbecue in San Diego, restaurants near me, takeout near me, right? One of the best ways to be found for more discovery searches is leveraging keywords. Reviews are basically free content for you to leverage. Think about keywords that are relevant to your brand, your location, and include as many of those in your review responses as possible, right? How can you go about doing this? Let's set up reports, utilize tools like Google Trends, find out what's going on in your area and how you can help leverage these keywords and review responses, because someone else is doing that, right? If you need some examples, you could do anything from including summer menu, gluten-free menu, leverage specific menu items like the dreaded and beloved spice pumpkin anything in your review responses, right? Let them know what's coming. Let your reviewers know something they should come back and try. And of course, if all of this just seems overwhelming and daunting because you're already running a restaurant and have enough on your plate, just leverage the team at Marquee to do this for you. We handle all of this. We're experts in this space. We can automate this so it's just another item that you know you are taking care of. Again, that's marquee.com, marquii.com. Know you. However, we did recently buy marquii.com, so if you do misspell it, we got you. You'll still find us. We can still help you.
The results are in. National Restaurant Association show. Kyle and Sarah and myself, we were at the Davos sales tax booth and we were polling restaurant owners on the floor. This was a very unscientific poll, but the results are resounding. Restaurant owners do not like sales tax. Nobody likes sales tax. Doesn't matter what business owner you are, small business, big business. Davo automates the sales tax process. We are so grateful that Davo is the sponsor of this show. They automate sales tax at our Cali barbecue restaurants. It is $50 a month. It integrates with all the major point of sale partners, including Toast. So if you want to sleep at night, if you want to not worry about sales tax, go to Davo, check them out, Davo Sales Tax. Let us know how they're helping automate your sales tax in your restaurant so that we can share your Davo story on digital hospitality. One of your missions, actually your top mission at PAR, is to act with urgency. We don't wait for the elevator.
It's one of our values, yeah. So we believe that, people often have to ask us, how the heck did this rinky-dink company in upstate New York that was a hardware manufacturer become, one of the fastest growing SaaS companies, out there and growing all that. And I always say, we really obsessed on our mission and our values. And what was neat about it was that I don't know if we were very prescriptive about it. We sort of said, these are the values, and it kind of became self-reinforcing. And so as an example, acting with urgency is a huge deal at the PAR. And the reason why is I was noticing, I always think about those moments when, you're on an airplane and you're just sitting there waiting, and it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and you don't get any update. You get anxious, you get frustrated. You're like, what the hell? I hate XYZ airline. And I think of our customers that way too, which is, I've got a problem. I let you know about it. And I want to feel like you care about it as much as I do. And oftentimes, and to me, that's urgency. It's treating it, it's very important. And so, I always tell our team, you've got to act with urgency because we sell critical technology. This is stuff that if it doesn't work, someone can get fired. And so we have to act with that urgency. And I honestly think the easiest way for us to figure out if somebody doesn't work well at PAR is that they don't act with urgency. If a customer emails you and you don't respond, or you're like, hey, I'll get back to that in 3 days, you're probably not a great fit for PAR. Conversely, if you work in our HR department and an employee has an issue with their paycheck or their benefits, and we don't show them the same urgency that we care, holy cow, you're probably not a great fit either. And so urgency is a core part of who we are, but it's not urgent on everything. It's urgent on the things that matter. And so we do try to kind of mix that urgency with a core idea of what we call focus. How do we focus on the things that really matter?
How do you build things that last? How do you build slowly, but also act with urgency?
I think it's very deliberate. So there's the urgent stuff of installs, support, all the stuff that has to be there. And that to me is cultural. That is just hey, we care when a customer emails us because it matters. When a customer calls, we have to show that we actually care. And you gotta give I don't know what the PG or not, whatever. You gotta care, and you gotta act. That to me is a cultural thing. You got to do that. But to build things that last and matter, you've got to have a strategic vision. And for us, we've historically said our mission is to connect people to the brand, meals, and moments they love. And so how do we do that is kind of our guiding light. And we're kind of always trying to how do we build towards that? And so I think one is a cultural thing, which is, hey, act with urgency, take care of the customers, take care of our people, act with great focus. On the strategic side, you've got to have that vision, and you've got to be very deliberate in building to it. Because as you suggested, man, you can get caught up in the day-to-day, and there's plenty of stuff to do day-to-day. But if you aren't constantly pulling people out of that, it's hard. And by the way, I would tell you, that's probably the greatest challenge I've had, is that I'm an in the weeds operator. I'm not sort of like pie in the sky. I'm in front of customers. I'm in product meetings. I'm in sales meetings. And I think that, as PAR has grown, I've had to kind of morph my role into making sure that we aren't losing sight of the 5-year picture, the 10-year picture, and today, because man, it's so easy to feel like you're productive when you're just putting out fires. It's a lot harder to feel productive when you spend the time to think about, okay, well, here's where we got to be in 2 years. How do we get there? You don't feel like you've done as much that day. You don't feel like you've got to inbox zero. But man, it's so important to have that balance.
Do you keep inbox zero?
No. On Fridays I get really close, but my inbox sadly is like, I'm at the end of I'm a millennial, but at the end of the millennial where your inbox is still very much your to-do list. And so I don't think I've ever gotten truly to inbox zero. Now there's all the hacks, right? You just throw it into a bunch of folders, but I've never gotten there.
Amazing. Can you talk about what is the number? How many restaurants are in the United States? I know there's multiple different numbers.
I think our estimate is 700 to 800,000.
7 to 800,000. Okay.
Yeah. I think our friends at Toast say it's 1 million. I think Olo says 1 million. It's somewhere between there.
Okay. And of those restaurants, how many of them have no point of sale, have no digital ordering? Do you know?
So on the point of sale side, I think everyone's got a point of sale. There's a very that still run on old school cash registers, and most of them are, I would say those are, vendors, bars, food trucks, maybe, not so much traditional restaurants, because it's very hard to run a restaurant without a point of sale system. It's just really, it's not just the payment stuff, it's the orchestration in the kitchen. It's, if you want to do anything digital, you can't do that from a cash register. And then on the digital ordering side, I would say on the enterprise side, which is about half the stores in the United States, so call it 350, 400,000, pretty much everyone has some form of digital ordering. There isn't the ones that haven't or have chosen not to. So, there have been brands, like I think Olive Garden just started their work with Uber Eats or DoorDash, I forget which one, that they had chosen not to for a long time. And so there are some that still haven't done it, but for the most part, there's some digital connectivity to most restaurants, but there are those that haven't, like, In-N-Out Burger doesn't have online ordering, and I don't think ever will. So there's going to be that population that I just think doesn't want it.
And how many countries does PAR operate in?
So we sell our hardware and services all over the world, tens of countries, I don't know, dozens of countries. Our software products are primarily North American based, although we just acquired a business in Australia that it does serve more global customers. But for the most part, the vast majority of our software revenues are all in the United States.
What do you think is the biggest challenge? I mean, my wife is from Bulgaria. I go to Bulgaria every year in the summer, and I see the restaurant owner, the cafe owner, and I talk to them, and they face the same challenges that we have here in San Diego. And, I go to Chicago for the National Restaurant Association. Like, all of these challenges that we face as hospitality professionals, we all face the same ones, whether it's inventory, whether it's digital ordering, whether it's, marketing on social, figuring out how to get people to come and become profitable, all of these challenges. How do you look at it from a global lens?
So human beings to me are the same everywhere. We just get, it just comes at different time periods. So, as an example, in Europe, McDonald's had delivery for like 20 years. In the US, it started 3 years ago. We forget you couldn't get McDonald's delivered at home, like when you and I were kids, that wasn't never really a thing. But in Europe and Asia, you get McDonald's delivered all the time. And so in that example, delivery happened there first, it happened here second. Conversely, loyalty and online ordering really was a US thing that's now growing internationally. And so it kind of started here and moved over there. And so to me, it's just technology the challenges are the same, they just come in different time periods and where you are in that digital adoption. The reason why technology is so hard, so much, I guess, right at this moment in time, been less adopted internationally, is that technology is expensive and it takes scale to build really great solutions. So as an example, our point of sale system, Brink, it's in North America, US, Canada, some of Mexico, but really it's a North American solution. And we're eventually, we'll see where it goes internationally. But the hard part is, if we go to Bulgaria in this example, you got to go to Bulgaria. You've got to configure the product for Bulgarian taxation, fiscal laws, currency, language, all that stuff, right? But then you got to go integrate into the Bulgarian back office software, the Bulgaria tax collection software, the Bulgaria whatever, and all those integrations, right? So you spend all this money integrating to all those products, right? And then you go start selling and you wake up one day and you're like, I got 200 stores. I'm never going to make my money back.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's hard to build something that's truly scalable out there. Now, I do think there are some markets where it makes a ton of sense. And you see, amazing businesses like Toast doing that and others. But when people say international, I think, we in the US tend to be like, it's just another market. No, it's like 100 different markets. You got to figure out which ones you want to be in. It's really, really hard. And so that's why, if you look over time, 20 years ago, when the first sort of restaurant technology wave happened, if you were a global business, that meant you had a US platform and an international platform. There were two different businesses because it's hard to get that. And then the last thing I'd say is when you've got a POS product that's US based, as an example, do you really want to add Bulgarian functionality and Lithuanian functionality and Romanian functionality and all that stuff? Does it actually do anything for your US customers? Like, not really. And so the benefits of a cloud product where everyone gets the updates and the scale doesn't exist, right? And so I think there's a lot of technical challenges and cost challenges at the moment. My hope is AI makes that a little bit easier, but as you know, there's just so many products you have to integrate into, and it's tough to do that on a country by country basis.
I really appreciate that insight. So yesterday I was at the MureTech Multi-Unit Technology Conference here in San Diego, the executive summit. They asked me to speak about dynamic pricing. There were some incredible people in the room. We were having a conversation actually with one of our friends over at Restaurant 365 about the word integration. What does it mean, integration? I think it might be the most misused word in restaurant technology from an understanding standpoint. Can you give me a basic definition?
I think it's mismarketed. So, one of the things that I think we at PAR just categorically are bad at is marketing ourselves. So, as an example, we will say that our Brink POS is integrated into 300 different products. Now, when we say integrated, those are real integrations. Those are point-to-point integrations into our API where it's been months of work, thousands of dollars have gone into it. Whereas, I sort of go around to other people and they're like, oh, I've got an integration with XYZ, and it's, and I'm like, that is nothing compared to what we do. And so in the restaurant industry, from a technology perspective, an integration actually is something that's built between two different products that is, in my opinion, dynamic. And so as an example, when the menu gets updated in the point of sale system, that should be cascading out to everywhere else, or if pricing gets changed or whatever, that needs to work really well where the point of sale system is a hub in the POS example. Similarly, if you have a loyalty program and an online ordering system, well, you better make sure that when you're placing that order on the online ordering system, the person's getting the loyalty points or the loyalty credits or whatever your system is, right? And that's an integration. Now, the reason why integration gets so misused is that an integration is an integration. An integration to our POS system might be very different than integration into somebody else's POS system. And so the level of data you can get is very different. So some people have integration and they'll say, all I need from the system is the receipt total. Other people will say, I need the itemization of the receipt because I need to take that data and do something with it. Somebody else will say, I need the itemization, I need the pricing, I also need the recipe items because I have an app that's going to go tell you your calorie, whatever it may be, right? And so there are different degrees of integration. And to me, integration comes back to partnership. And so are you really just integrating something to integrate it and say you integrate it? Are you trying to actually partner to build something special for the customer? And I think that's where I try to convert the language into there's an integration and then there's a partnership. And you got to make that partnership work because these integrations are big, they're heavy. And again, what I I think what keeps me humble all the time is your customer really depends on it. Like, can you imagine the pain that a chief digital officer restaurant goes through when, they get an email from, 1,000 customers saying, hey, I just placed all these orders online and I didn't get the credit for the order in my loyalty app. That sounds like a small issue, but guess where that email goes to? That goes to the CEO. That gets on Twitter. That creates such a fuss, and that's on us. And conversely, can you imagine when you place that order on DoorDash and that order doesn't, and you get to the restaurant to pick it up and they don't have the order? How does that tarnish your brand? And so these things are really sensitive. And so again, that integration to me is really how do you change integration from just a tech integration to a partnership?
So Cali Barbecue Media, we just started working with Kickfin. I noticed that Kickfin is one of your new integration partners. I would love to hear, how do you pick and choose? I'm sure you have a waiting list of partners that would love to partner and integrate. How do you choose?
Oh man, this is a tough question. Because
that's what we're here for, the tough questions.
Yeah, you get 1,000 requests. Generally, we focus on customer backwards. So, gosh, if we've got I don't know 300-400 customers at PAR, 500 customers at PAR, if 100 people want them, like we're going to integrate to that thing. if one customer wants it, we're generally like, hey, like we've got to prioritize the stuff that more customers want. So it's very much customer driven. It's not so much, oh, that looks like a cool thing, let's go do that. It's very much what are we hearing that our customers need and want? Because in the end, we want their dreams to come true of their tech stack. Now, there are times where we take a bet, and sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. 5 years ago or something, we did a partnership with a voice AI company. And oh my God, we were too early. Their technology was way oversold, and we pissed off a bunch of customers because it didn't work. So once in a while, we'll take a bet and say, hey, we think this technology might work. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But most of the time, it's customer led, which is, hey, how many customers want this? How many customers need this? And then we work to prioritize it that way.
Can you talk about the culture at PAR? What are you guys building? What differentiates you?
The culture is everything at PAR. So I obsess over this, and I obsess. It's funny, like when I first got to PAR, I remember my first town hall. We were a really challenged company. We were, weeks away from potentially going bankrupt. We had to go save a company, and I was a 34, 35-year-old kid who didn't grow up in the area, didn't know anybody at the company, didn't know a thing about restaurants, and somebody asked me, what do you think about the values of PAR? The corporate values of PAR, and I made a flippant remark, which is like, they make for really good posters on the wall, and remember, I offended some people, and I said my point at the time was, gosh, those values that we have, which were like authenticity and caring for our team members, I said, like, how can a company that has these values be on the verge of bankruptcy? That doesn't make any sense. How can a company that says we care for our employees have 20 people out of whatever hundreds, only 20 people have equity in the company? Like, do we really care if we're not paying our people, or not taking care of our people? When we say we care for our customers, how can our customer NPS be negative, whatever? Like, these things don't make sense. Like, they're not working. And so to me, culture it gets misinterpreted as it's a fun culture, it's a creative culture. Like, I hate when people say that. To me, culture is creating business value, and you're creating business value because you're creating value for your customers. And so when we first started at PAR, we had 3 values. Today we're up to 5, and it won't be any bigger than 5. But those first 3 values, and again, this is a very scary, acute time, were literally speed, ownership, and winning. Everything matters. And again, HR obviously toned down the last one, but the reason we did that was you have to think about the time when you're weeks away from running out of money. You've got customers angry. Our employee NPS was negative 50 or 60. Like, everybody was unhappy. And so, we said, hey, we need people that want to be in this tribe. We want people to act with speed, take ownership, and want to win, because we kind of lost this idea that winning matters. And we got into this whole sort of like, almost like socialism. And so we created this really intense and vibrant culture that attracted people. Looking forward to today, a lot of my job is like the guardian or the keeper of the culture, because as you get bigger and bigger, your tendency is to sort of weaken your culture. And I always say, like, what I always hate is when people are like, oh, do you remember when we were 20 people in a room, the culture was so great? And I'm like, why can't it be better now? Like, why can't the culture be better today when we're, X thousand people? And so, I obsess on it. And today, I think what I've learned is that culture has to grow. So we started those 3 values that were super intense, super harsh. And, today we're at 5. And it really is pretty exciting to see how much that culture creates value. So as an example, one of our new values is, I'll summarize, is basically outcomes over output. And it's this belief that it doesn't matter if you work 100 hours a day. If you don't solve the customer problem or your team member's problem or the employee's problem, it doesn't really matter. It's the outcome. And so I'd rather have the person that works 10 hours that solves the problem versus the person that works 100 hours and sends you 20 status updates, but nothing gets done. Now, why does that matter? Well, it kind of trains me and our team to go to a meeting and say, wait, what was the outcome of that meeting? Or to our customers saying, hey, what's the outcome you're getting to? Is the outcome of what you're getting to trying to create a loyalty program? Or is it to create more value for your customers such that you can take some of that value and make more money yourself as a brand? And that training of outcomes. So my favorite example is actually in the HR world. And this is not something apart, but if you said, hey, I want to have a diverse environment, and I want to have a diversity program. The goal is actually not to create a diversity program. The goal is to be diverse. And so that's the outcome versus the output of, hey, I made a program and did it. And so, I tell our legal team, hey, like, cool, we have a compliance program so nobody steals or whatever. I'm like, that's an output. We have a compliance program. The outcome is, do we not have compliance issues? And so it's an example of that. And so what's really fun about PAR is that culture has become self-reinforcing. And we have incredibly high employee retention because we tell you all this up front. So if you came to interview PAR, I'd go to the end and be like, listen, Sean, our first value is urgency. Our next one is like outcomes. It's an intense place. It's a place that we deeply care about each other, but we really care about our customers. Do you really want to deal with that, man? Like, this is not a place to hang out and have cold brew coffee. Like, our values don't say fun and curiosity. They're about delivering for our customers. And so if you love and thrive in that environment of like, hey, I delivered for, Tropical Smoothie, and I felt proud because I delivered for that customer, like, this is the place you want to be. And when you do that really aggressively up front, the people that come in, they're not surprised when they come in, right? They're not like, oh, like, this is different than I thought. Like, they kind of know it. And so you recruit believers and then you build. And I think what we have done, honestly, that I'm so prideful of, is we really push that up front, and then we listen and we learn and we adjust it. And like I said, we went from 3 values to 4 to 5. We took off one, and we really have kind of, I think, done a good job of saying we don't know what's best, but we will think what we do what's best, and then we will listen and change and change and change. And so I think our employees will tell you, like, there are many times I get up in front, I'm like, man, we screwed this up. Like, gosh, our value should not have been winning effing matter, just have been winning together. And this is an example of me screwing that up. And so, I would describe our culture as really intense, hyper focused on delivering outcomes for our customers, but really, really collaborative.
So there's no pickleball courts or
So we do have
smoothie
a lot of fun.
machines?
Like, I think
What do you guys?
so we do have a ton of fun. So I think, like I said, part of the reason I think our employee retention is very high is that we do celebrate the wins, and we celebrate the wins with our customers, with our team members. So you'll see we do tons of offsites with interesting, fun activities. If you go to any of our, a lot of these restaurant conferences, you see we've got really fun events, and those events you'll see they're more about enjoying ourselves with our team as much as with our customers, because we get together. And we obsessively think about rewarding our employees. One thing I forgot to mention in the culture question is you can give a bunch of cool values. Like, you can say these values are great, they're important, but if you don't pay for them, it doesn't matter. And so one of the things we do with our senior executives is it's like, hey, you deliver your goals, and your 360 review ranked you this on culture. So you know what, even though you hit your goals, it sounds like you were a total a-hole, like, we can't pay you. And so we pay for that too. And so if you look at PAR, what has that led to is it led to an ambitious team that has people that are in their 60s on the leadership team and people that are in their 20s on the leadership team. And that's kind of a fun environment.
You said when you got into this industry, you didn't know anything about restaurants. What have you learned about restaurants in your time?
Well, first and foremost, I say it is a hard business. So anyone that tells you like running a restaurant is easy, it is really tough. And I think I have become incredibly sympathetic and empathetic to the challenges of running a restaurant. And I think that one of the great misunderstandings we have is we think that a restaurant is a food business, but it's a food business, it's a service business, it's a hospitality business, it's a people management business. I mean, it's intense. And so when I go to a restaurant now, I'm looking at all the stuff you're looking at, which is like, oh my God, like, the DoorDash order's already done, but there's one person in the front trying to take orders here. Oh my God, like, there's nobody manning the drive-through. There's one, it's like you kind of can figure out these things very quickly. And I think that my major takeaway is that the restaurant form factor has not really changed in 40 or 50 years. When you go to McDonald's today, it's not terribly different than when you went there in 1985. It's the same 4 walls. However, the demands of the restaurant have completely changed. We've gone to a restaurant and said, hey, you still got to deliver that amazing experience that I had when I was a kid. And by the way, you also got to be Amazon.com to my kid who's ordering on the phone and expects you to be, on time like Amazon is. And that's crazy hard. And so that poor restaurant operator is still operating that restaurant that we dreamed of when we were kids, and they got to be Amazon.com outside. That's crazy. That's like going to the Amazon warehouse and say, hey, can you go open a 5-star dining restaurant in the back of the warehouse with the same exact employees and a very little bit of, like, that would be a completely unfair thing to do. But that's what we've done to restaurants. And so my major learning, and obviously I'm talking my own book here, is like, the only way to solve that is by adding technology to help you deal with that challenge, right? So your employees shouldn't feel constantly overwhelmed. So that's number one. It's such a complicated business. Technology will solve it. Will have to be a big thing. I think the other part is that hospitality doesn't die with technology. And I think that we kind of sometimes think about technology replacing hospitality, but I think it can be additive. I think you can still create those unique human experiences, whether they're digital or in person. And that's kind of a dream of ours, is that how do you do that? How do you get technology to get out of the way and help you build a relationship to your guests as opposed to without it? And the last thing is, I think it's like the funnest industry in the world. You get to make people happy all the time and create memories. And I think that, it's very cool to meet, somebody that works at a great brand, and like they kind of walk with a little pep in their step because like everybody loves what they do.
So my grandfather, he raised me. It's one of the 3 of the values that we talk about on the show, which is stay curious, get involved, ask for help. Asking for help is probably the most difficult thing, especially as a hospitality professional. We don't ask for help, and leaders, it's hard to ask for help. Are you good at asking for help?
Yeah, but I ask it from our team members. So I'm probably pretty bad at going to, the big CEOs or even the par board and saying, help me with this thing. I'm actually pretty bad at that. I think I've been bad at kind of seeking out mentorship for my own life. But what I'm probably very good at is like actually asking for help from our team members. So a lot of what I do is I'll call a random, employee apart and be like, what are we screwing up? How do we solve that problem? What do you think about that? And so I think what you would hear from employees at PAR, or even our customers, I am wildly curious and ask 1,000 questions and talk super fast and get excited. But for me, every problem is a people problem. I always say to people say, hey, I want to be a CEO. I say, great. Your job is like 99% problems. Like business is just about dealing with next problem after problem after problem. And you got to kind of mentally be prepared for that. But you solve those problems with human beings, not with, anything else. And so to me, I am really good at asking for that help from our team members and our customers, probably pretty bad from like mentors, but it's so much more fun when you find a problem with a team member and you get it done and that person gets to enjoy the success of that win and then it's just like the most rewarding experience ever.
What advice would you have for the startup tech founder? We work with a lot of restaurant technology companies that are in that startup phase trying to build something great. What advice would you give to them as they're building out their team, going to market?
Don't do it. Just kidding.
Same advice that I give to people that want to get into restaurants.
So I'll be very specific. I was an entrepreneur, and in many ways, I think I'm an entrepreneur at PAR. Because we kind of transformed the business. So first things first. The number one advice I would give to any entrepreneur is do it because you're actually interested in the problem you are solving, not because you're trying to make money or notoriety or get a good LinkedIn post out of it. You got to actually like be in love with the problem. And I really mean that because 99 out of 100 times, your business is going to take longer to get to the point of success than you expect. It's going to be 10 times harder, cost 2 times as much. And the only way that keeps you motivated is not when you go to a conference and people say, oh my God, you're doing so well. It's when you actually are just obsessed with solving that problem. And if you aren't innately into that problem, right? Like if you're going to start a barbecue restaurant, like you really got to enjoy that conversation of what rub are you using, or debating with somebody, Carolina versus Memphis. Like you got to really that's got to just be your passion. So that's number one. And there's too many people that like I think get an idea, jump into it, but that's not like their lifelong passion. The second advice I would give them is be super deliberate about your culture. As I told you, and when I say we're deliberate about our culture at PAR, like I was serious. So when I said like one of our early days was speed. Like I would literally pay employees to say, if you can find a recurring meeting at PAR that we don't need and that we can cut, we'll pay you $1,000. And we would create that, right? We would say, you act like an owner at PAR. If you go find some savings, we'll give you go find $10,000 of savings. Here's $1,000 for you. You got to be deliberate about it. You can't just say these are the values that I care about. And there's so many times I'll see employees that, oh, we have such a good culture, it's a good culture. I'm like, how does that drive business value? And so be really deliberate, write down these things, talk about it a lot, and be over communicative, particularly with those first 5, 10, 20, 30 people, because then you don't got to think about it and it just sort of happens. And I would tell you, I am no longer the best example of our culture. It's our leaders that are like so much better than me at like living in, and they keep me in check. So be very deliberate with your culture. The last thing I would say about being a founder is be narrow. Selling software to restaurants is really hard, really slow, and it's not an enormous industry. Like I mentioned, there are 700, 800,000 restaurants in America, but it's actually 2 different industries. There's the individual operator who's got that one store, that local Italian restaurant you love, and then there is Arby's, right? Those are really different businesses, and so you're going to sell to like only half that industry. And then in the end, if you're really successful, you might get 5% industry, 10% industry, and so if you're charging $1,000 a year for your product and you get to 10,000 restaurants, that's a nice business, but that's not a venture capital business. That's not a business that can go public, right? And so really understand a narrow problem first, get it super, super right, and then expand from there. Because what happens is you go there and you say, oh my gosh, my product only costs $1,000 and I need to get to 100 million of revenue or whatever it is. I'm going to go build these 20 other products. And you just get so diluted with your focus. And so I would obsess over solving a narrow problem, creating that value, building trust with that customer before you go say, hey, I'm going to go build you 30 other things.
Do you now believe that the values are ingrained enough at par that they're worthy of the poster that you made fun of?
I do, and
Are there posters up at par with the
that's
values?
funny. We just put one up a month ago. More of like a painting than a
Awesome.
poster. But
Painting,
I mean,
fantastic.
I just want people to live it. And we were a company that was been around for so long that had so much atrophy. Nobody could really tell you what our mission was, our vision was. I'll give you an example. When I was on the board of the company, I went and met the management team of the company, and I asked every manager, Sean, what's the best job you've ever had? And not one person said their current job. And I was like, huh, like that doesn't make sense. Like I just interviewed 11 people on the executive team. Not one person thinks it's the best job they've ever had. And then I would say, like, what's our mission? What's our plan? And everyone had a different answer. And again, all these people were great human beings, like great high integrity. Like there wasn't anybody that was bad, but you could see an unaligned workforce. And so my point was more about if you have a strong culture, there's alignment on something, not everything. And the last thing I want you to think about is that PAR is like a uniform workforce. Like I say, the greatest part of my job is there are 3 people on the executive team of PAR that call me an idiot every single day. And that's also what makes it fun because they stress me out. And I tell our board all the time, like the best part is like there are probably 3 people here that are like going to take my job soon. And I don't know how you guys are going to pick which one and it's going to work, but like it's an intense place, but I love that. So I do think that values are worth putting on the wall if they're actually organic to who you are. But if they're like, super aspirational, they should be aspirational, but if they're super aspirational, like just don't try to pretend.
So before I let you go, we're going to ask you some questions about your personal tech stack. Are you an Android or an iPhone user?
iPhone.
Which version?
I'm on the 15. I'm on an older one.
15. How often do you update? When are you getting the next version?
When my phone,
What are your rules?
when it breaks. So
It
generally
breaks, so that'll be a while.
when the battery starts dying super fast or if there's like some lag. For me, I still, you might remember this, but like I've been on iPhone since it first came out. It's like the insecurity of like, oh man, like I got to restart it. And I'm on the phone for half a day. And I know it's not true anymore. I just
Oh
changed my.
no, it's true. I just did it. My wife, she did not want me to change. I upgraded and then I upgraded her, but she didn't want to do it because it logs you out of all your accounts,
Yeah,
all
and the
the apps.
authenticator apps and all that. I mean, I was going to do it to try the Apple Intelligence, but having played with it on some friends, it's like just not good enough where I want to
Yeah.
make shit.
Do you prefer phone calls or text messages?
Uh, I think, man, it's a combo. Like text for like updates. I always say like that could have been a text. You don't need to call me for that. Like they say, hey, I talked to Johnny. He's good. Like you could just text me that. But if it's nuance, I prefer the phone call.
Do you leave voicemails?
No.
No leaving voicemails. A company on Slack?
Yes.
What are the Slack rules of engagement? High
We
level.
don't really have any, except the only one I put out there is let's stop creating catch channels. So we've got like a large part of our workforce loves cats, and so we have like too many channels about like cat memes and pictures of your cats. We've got a great one called Par Smoke, which is a channel about like our home bar. Like I'm a big barbecue guy, and so
Oh,
that one.
really?
So, but generally, like we actually don't have hard and fast rules on Slack. And it's funny, we moved from Zoom to Teams, which was very painful. And I was a big Zoom fanboy. In fact, I put Zoom in before the pandemic. But Microsoft's, proved the platform strategy. It was just too good, too integrated, and whatever, and relative, ostensibly free. But we never got off Slack, and Slack has become very sticky. It is like how we operate. It is the app that you check first.
How many emails do you get a day?
Oh man, hundreds. But
Hundreds.
I have a lot of filtering, so I can focus on the ones that matter.
How many do you enjoy reading of those hundreds?
I would say probably half. I mean, enjoy is a tough word. Like I like emails that I can do something with. The emails that are like really open-ended, I struggle with. Those are the ones that I keep unread because I can't action it. So my general thing is I can respond. If I get an email, if I can respond to it right away, I always do. If it's an email that I need to think about for 2 days, like I'll say, hey, I'm going to get back to you in 2 days.
What's the last thing you barbecued?
Oh man, I did a really interesting rub on some ribs when my family was visiting. Oh, that wasn't the last one. I got a really good Wagyu steak. I did a reverse sear. And the challenge of Wagyu steak is if you don't get a thick cut, like the fat comes out so fast when you do the reverse sear. So we got a really thick, expensive cut. I did it with my dad, who hadn't had a good reverse sear in a while. So I did that. My challenge is I have really little kids, like not little super little, but like 8, 6, and 2, 9, 6, and 3. And like they'll have like half a rib and they're like, oh, it's so good. And so you're left with this. And so I used to do a great pork butt, with the mustard, and I love like the mustard and dry rub on it, but then I'm eating it for like 2 weeks. So it's like, I'm limited. So I generally now stick to ribs. I'll do brisket once or twice a year when we kind of commit like, okay, it's going to be for breakfast, lunch and dinner kind of thing. And then I'm trying to figure out how to do chicken well. I haven't really nailed that yet. We're located in upstate New York, and there's a famous thing called like Judge's chicken. It was invented by a professor at Cornell. It's like a tangy, oregano-y chicken, and I can't seem to make it how I get it from a great barbecue place. But anyways, I love doing reverse sear on a steak, and I do ribs pretty consistently.
What kind of smoker are you using?
We have a Traeger.
You have a Traeger? Love it.
My dream is to get like a real Lockhart, like a real wood smoker one day, but my our house isn't big enough for that yet.
So I recently took my daughter's 5, my son is 7, but I recently went to her kindergarten to talk about what daddy does on career day. So talking about restaurants and media. So trying to explain to kindergartners, what does a restaurant owner do and what does a media professional do? If you went to your 6-year-old's class, what would they tell their class that you do?
So funny story that just recently happened, and my son said my dad is an Uber driver.
Stop.
Because I'm always like, the Uber's here, I gotta go, and so that's literally what happens. I think that what my son would say is my dad's a leader, and so I think my older son would say that, and I think he comes to the office, he doesn't really get what software is, but I think what he observes is hopefully servant leadership. Like what my son would tell you is, I'm still the first guy in the office, I'm still the last guy out, I work really hard, and so to me, I know. I'm obsessed with my kids being humble, and I've said this before, like all the wealth I accumulate from PAR is being donated. It's not going to my kids, and I want them to make their own path and have their own journey in life. And so to me, like the lesson is like humility and hard work. And it's like really, it sounds super simple, but like I'm obsessed with that. And so I think what I hope my kid would say, I think, because who knows what he's really going to say. I would hope that he would say, my dad works really damn hard, and and keeps his head down. Like that's what I would love for him to say. I think he would tell you, my dad's a leader. He's always kind of directing stuff, but who knows? Let's see. I would much rather say I run a restaurant so I could engage with the kids and have a fun conversation. Because I don't know what the hell I would say if I went to their school and said, we build software. That would be a harder sell.
Yeah. We do media. It was easier for my daughter to say that she said that she wanted to work at Cali Barbecue, her favorite restaurant. And I said, what position would you want to do? And she goes, I want to make videos. And I'm like, well, you want to be in the storytelling business.
Yeah, I think one day I want to have a job that my kid wants to do. Like my kid's the last thing he's gonna say is like, I want to go work at a software company. He's like, my son wants to be in the NBA. My daughter wants to be a dancer. My little one wants to be
what did you want to do?
So when I was younger, I thought I was gonna be a professional tennis player. Like that was my dream. I didn't think about it. Yeah, I was super competitive, and
you still play?
No, I don't actually. Although I really want to. I now play a ton of basketball, and then when I went to college, I thought, oh, maybe I'll become a doctor because a lot of people I know are doctors, and I did like a week of bio, and I was like, this ain't for me. And then I started business, and then my father, who's kind of like the main influence in my life, sent me a Warren Buffett biography, and I was like 19 or something, and he's like, this guy reminds me of you, and he also likes burgers and cherry Coke, and I was like, oh, and I read it, and I just got obsessed, and so I used to save money, fly to Omaha, listen to his annual meetings, and I started to model my career after him, and like I've evolved. Like I think the lesson of my career is I started out as a corporate finance guy doing fancy finance jobs. Then I was an entrepreneur starting to sell baseball cards and basketball cards and gold bars. Then I was an investor, and then I stepped into PAR. And so I wish there was like some intelligent design of my career and what I did, but I honestly tell you, it was very opportunistic. It was sort of seeing an opportunity and not being scared to. It's like I have it here. Like it's a Teddy Roosevelt quote. Like I really believe being the man in the arena is like
Yeah.
my guiding light. So I just kind of jump in.
I love it. I'm grateful for the time, for the extra time, Savneet. Par, best. We'll put links into the show notes for people to connect with you. But this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. If you guys want to get in touch with me, it's at Sean P. Walchef, ShawnPWalchef. We have a digital hospitality community that meets on LinkedIn every Wednesday, every Friday. We want to hear your story. If you're in technology, if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, if you're a content creator, if you're in restaurants, we have people that meet online so that you can meet in real life at some of these trade shows, no matter where you are on earth. Your story matters. Savneet, what's the best place for people to connect with you? LinkedIn, I'm
Yep.
assuming?
Yep.
Not TikTok?
Not on TikTok, no. Avoiding the chance
Too
of distraction.
important. To have too much stuff to do to be on TikTok. Savneet, thank you so much. We really seriously grateful for the time, and thank you for leading from the front and going on shows. This is really important, and we're grateful for it. So thank you.
Thank you.